coup, je sais pas, mettre une note.
I went to the bodybuilding expert in France, Michael Gundill, and I was able to get rated from him to basically understand better my level and get a gauge of what I am worth on the most elite bodybuilding stage there is. Michael Gundill is the most productive of all the French content creator, as he was already doing journalist and writing work into magazines of bodybuilding into the 90s, and he has a YouTube channel of more than 4,000 videos, and he's the one that is responsible for the best series of bodybuilding and strength training books series, the Strength Training Anatomy Workout book, where with Delavier he explained everything you need to know about bodybuilding, both his science, biomechanics, and everything he did helped me personally and thousands of others to become a better athlete and also a better trainer, a better professional of the sport. And thanks to him, I was able to basically build my body and get up to this level. In this video, I will show you and share with you everything that he basically told me and that is helping me to become a better athlete. Let's go. So just keep in mind, this was recorded in September 2024, and I was basically at the end of a fat loss that I was doing. I ended up at around 88% of body fat. I checked with a DEXA scan, which is the first time ever I did one, and the notation is not going to be something that will maybe be normal or usual for you, but you have to remember, it's not social media, it's not the good lighting with a pump and the angles, it's about what you are worth on stage, as cruel and as unforgiving it can be. So now we are going to see how you can note bodybuilding. So bodybuilding notation is all about balance. It's about the flow, the symmetry, the muscle mass, and the sharpness of said muscle mass, or the definition. Basically, the bigger you are, the more muscular you are, and the leaner you are, the best it is. But at the same time, you need to take care of the symmetry. For example, having too little muscle on one spot and too much on another can throw off the balance of the whole body, so it makes you look weird. That's why, for example, we do not like guys who have a huge belly despite being very lean, despite being it pure abs, and we prefer a rather small waist with a V-taper. All of that is the symmetry. And in bodybuilding, this is what you want to achieve. You are basically trying to present the perfect body, the impersonation of the perfect body through you, your body. And of course, we have a few elements that we can control, and there are other elements that we can't control. Some things you have the influence upon. Muscle mass, leanness, working, training, doing your diet properly, understanding nutrition, etc., etc. This is you and only you. But there are other things where whatever you do, whatever you want, it's Mother Nature. For example, your bone structure, your height, the length of your clavicle, the width of your hip, the muscle attachment, the kind of muscle pop and shape that you have. For example, you do not have any kind of opinion and any kind of action possible on the length of your biceps, the peak, and even how they pop. Some people look good when they are relaxed, but they look kind of fade out when they pose, and on the other hand, some people look very small when they are relaxed, and everything pops out immediately the moment they just strike a pose. This is only genetic, and at the highest level, it is both a mixture of having a good genetic, thanks mom, thanks dad, and it is what it is, plus training at the best capacity you can with the proper nutrition and supplementation. And yes, also having the correct regimen with PEDs. Before giving you a full-blown analysis that Gundill gave me, I want to talk about a few examples that can give you maybe a better gauge and a better example of what it is to have a great body and a proper notation with that. Chris Bumstead is the example of God-given genetic with an amazing bone structure, with pretty good muscle length and insertion with tendon shape, plus an insane amount of work ethic and a proper genetic regarding muscle building and also a proper workout for it to be built. Chris is extra strong, he's extra dedicated, and he basically dominated the sport for 8 years straight. And I do not think you realize how hard it is to basically be the top best in the entire world in your division for almost a decade. Chris is tall, wide shoulder, small waist, big rib cage, big flare out of said rib cage, nice V-taper, strong shoulder, very good legs, very good abs, very good conditioning. The only real weak point we could see with him would be the arms, both biceps, triceps, but also the forearm maybe, and also the mid-back area where the lats are, the erector of the thoracic region are, and where there is the transition between the traps and other muscles. That is the only thing that we can say that we are not basically as good as they can potentially be, or as good as maybe other athletes be. And that's why Chris is not necessarily a 10 out of 10, but something that can range to a 9 out of 10 to even a 9.5 out of 10. Remember, he was the best for 8 years straight. And each time he came in 100% dialed in with peak shape, there was absolutely no way to beat him, despite the fact that in classic physique, we have some of the top best caliber physiques and very dangerous kind of athletes. So this is a good example of what you can have as what can be described as one of the best athletes ever with one of the highest notation. Now, some of you may be surprised and be thinking, okay, if Chris Bumstead, VC Bum, V-GOAT is not a 10 out of 10, what technically is a 10 out of 10? And I have a few examples, and it is actually Gundill that gave them to me, and I actually agree, and I do understand how. For example, a true 10 out of 10 would be someone called Bob Paris. You see Bob Paris, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with the physique. First, the bone structure is immaculated. He's not too tall or too short, and you cannot find something that is lacking. Everything falls in place as it should be. There is no overwhelming strong point. There is no underwhelming weak point. Everything is good. And at the same time, Bob Paris was a masterful poser with top shape conditioning. There is literally nothing that can be said. Everything was properly in order, in good proportion, and where it's supposed to be. This is a true 10 out of 10. And there are other names that couldn't well for you. Francis Benfato, for example, or someone like Dexter Jackson, or even Frank Zane, that showcase how good and how balanced and perfect, technically speaking, the body can be. Now, another good example that I can give you regarding this whole notation thing that can get you up to the highest level would be Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. Arnold came in with a pretty wide waist, a blocky hip, a look of being very stocky because he had such a huge rib cage and sloppy shoulder that he didn't look maybe a par with other physiques. And yet, by working on the width, especially the delt, on having the huge, the most amazing arm we have seen yet in bodybuilding, at least easily a top 10 with all the other athletes that ever existed, plus being tall and understanding how to pose and have a huge rib flare plus good lat work and showcase, well, yes, he had maybe an underwhelming lower body, especially at the time, but considering how we have progressed in terms of machine and training method, and also with everything he sustained in terms of injury, Arnold is someone that may have not have the best structure to begin with, but absolutely maxed out everything he could in order to look the absolute best. That's how Arnold is easily also a 9 out of 10, especially considering the time he was training. And you also have to remember that stat-wise, Arnold and Sebum are extremely similar. So it gives you a rough idea of how good Arnold was and how good he dominated the sport by simply building mass and then fine-tuning the details and catching up on weak points, etc., etc. But you didn't click on this video for me to talk about Bumstead and Arnold, so let's go with my own rating. Okay, so despite being average height, I'm between 5'8" and 5'9", which is 173 to 175 centimeter, I look off, and I totally understand and get what Gundill is trying to say. I look very lanky because I have a very long arm and very long legs and very short torso, but these kind of proportions are usually seen in taller people, and I'm not tall, so that is quite weird. That is quite surprising. At the same time, my clavicle are short-ish, quite average, but maybe on the shorter side, but I look wide because I have good delt and a very small waist. I have short torso, but I have a long abdomen. I have an 8-pack, and I have very short pecs, so it's really weird because someone who has a short torso, you would be thinking maybe he has a pretty good chest with short abdomen, which is not the case with me. Also, there is the fact that I have a pretty big head. I mean, there is the beard and the hair, obviously, but my head is quite big, and the end result makes me look at least relaxed. Maybe not the best balanced physique, maybe not the most aesthetic and the most properly shaped, I'd say, body. Furthermore, there is also the fact that my wingspan is extremely big compared to my average height. I am, again, in between 5'8" to 5'9". My wingspan is 6 foot or 183 centimeter. So I have really long arms, and it kind of throw out the balance of my physique. And you can really see it when I'm standing relaxed. When I'm posing, it's my job, and I'm quite talented at it, to try and hide this fact. I kind of shorten my arms by making as much muscle belly pop when I'm doing it. But when I'm standing relaxed, you can really see like everything in proportion, and Gundill is masterful at it, obviously. There is another thing that has been discussed, and that is the calf issue. So for calves, you know that it is primarily genetic. It means there is no point in dying it. The shorter your calves are, the harder they're going to be to develop. The longer they are, the most likely we never even have to do anything for them. They're just going to be there and be quite muscular next to someone who is doing, 80 sets per week, but has them much shorter. In my case, they are average length. They are not short, but they are not long. But still, they are quite weak on my physique. And structurally speaking, there is no excuse. I should not have calves that are that small. Of course, in reality, what happened is that I have suffered from many ailments with my lower body. First with the knees, I have had many tendinitis with both of my knees. I have had my SI joint on the right side. I have had low back pain. And on my 2 ankles, I've had tendinitis of the Achilles tendon. So all of that kept me from really training and going hard on my lower body. And even my calves, I could not go as hard as I wanted. So I had to be careful to train them, prehab them, strengthen them, both for the ankle and the knee, but also not go overboard, because each time I would do it slightly too much, all of a sudden I would have pain and it would take weeks to disappear. So this is obviously a weak point, and I have technically no excuse for it, but the circumstances make it so that, well, this is what happened, and unfortunately I'm not supposed to have them that weak, but this is what happened. So calves for me are definitely a huge weak point that I'm currently working on, and that I hope to fix without having any more pains or any more issues with my lower body. Besides that, we tried a few poses. First one being a front double biceps, who, in the opinion of Gundill, was lackluster in lats. So it can be quite surprising because I have a pretty good V-taper. I'm pretty good from the front and the back, but apparently so, the standard nowadays, and it's true, is that you need to basically see the back from the front. You need to see the lats pop out from the front, and not just a little. You need to see them so much that it looks like you have too much back compared to the front muscle of your body. And you can see it again with Arnold when he was doing a lat spread, but also more recently with Bumstead and with Diesel and a ton of our top athletes who has a fantastic back development. This is obviously something I was quite surprised, but he's a pro and I will be working on that. I'm already working on it basically. And that is to have a focus onto the teres major, which is right under the armpit, plus the lats. And you need to basically see them from the front. These muscles have been something that I have voluntarily worked less, because I always thought that what lacked the most with my physique for years was the traps and the thickness. So this is what I prioritized for close to 3 years. And that is why I was not doing too much in terms of lats, especially lats. And that's why I did not do anything specifically for teres major. Now, of course, I'm changing that, and I'm already seeing the results and the change, but I will keep going and snowball that to make sure to have a proper back and increase my notation, basically. Another thing that he said, especially by checking my side triceps, is that I have pretty good arms, but they could be bigger. They can always be bigger. We talked about Stéphane Matala, who is a top pro bodybuilding from France, who has a very strong point with arms, and despite the fact that at some point they were maybe overshadowing the rest of his physique, well, right now, it's like, yeah, they're great, but it wouldn't be so bad to have them even bigger. So I'm translating what he said. You're a bitch and you can add even more mass to your arms. It's not going to do anything bad or necessarily very good with your physique. So, I'm kind of disheartened by that, because it was a huge weak point for me at the time. And I really worked my ass off to bring them to about 45.5 centimeters right now, almost 18 inches basically, which is 46 centimeters, a little more. I'm pretty proud of myself, but having someone tell me that, yeah, it's good, but it could be even better, who cares? It's like, it was kind of little bruise here on the ego. But yeah, he's right, he's right. That's the thing that we need to understand. There is no one that you can see on the bodybuilding stage and be like, the arms are so big that it is a problem. It doesn't exist. It's totally right. You see Arnold, you see Lee Priest, you see Lou Ferrigno, you see so many other guys that have gigantic arms. At no point will say, oh, it's too much arm. It doesn't exist, So that's the first thing. The second thing is to work more on the chest, and especially the upper chest. So I have a weak chest overall. I do not like to train chest. And you know, it was bound to happen that at some point it really, really penalized my physique. It really subtracts some points that you could have had with that. I'm not a big fan of big chest. I do not think it will look good on me, but for the upper chest part, he's right. You know, that's why I've been focusing much more on incline and upper chest bias work. It's working. For the abs, same thing. I know they are quite underdeveloped. It's a choice. Again, I want to keep my waist as small as possible, and I prefer to have a vacuum, slim, sleek waist presentation rather than like big chunky abs, like a very good popping six-pack, if you will. Speaking of which, what is around? Because of my shorter clavicle, I really need to emphasize the width. So I'm already going to do that with the teres major and lat part. But he also told me that, you know, your natural, with your delts, you need to go ham onto the side delt. And also the rear delt and the front delt, like everything. Your shoulder needs to be way bigger than there right now. Again, this is a strong point for me. So I kind of put them on the side by focusing more onto, again, traps, thickness of the back and the arms, because they were competing with my arms. And so having him tell me that, you know, no, your arms did work, your chest did work, your delt did work, your lats did work. It's like, hey, I really need to work on a lot of things. But at the same time, it means that I have room for growth. I have still room for improvement. I'm nowhere near maxed out. And there is something extremely motivating and stimulating for me in hearing that. You know, it's like, it's been 12 years, I still have stuff to do. You know, it feels great. I'm nowhere near the finish line, and it feels amazing. And I hope that for you watching this video and like having me describe all the flaws in my physique, while maybe you're thinking that I'm already a peak natty, one of the best natty in the world. I've seen that many times in the comments. Well, no. I have so much more to do, guys. And it's amazing. It's good. So, what type of notation did I got from all of this?
Du coup, je sais pas, mais tu notes 6 avec un facilement passé à 7, quoi. Non, mais en vrai, t'as un gros coup. T'as un gros coup, regarde.
C'est parce qu'il est très contracté là,
regarde,
son
quand
coup.
tu mets la tête en arrière,
Non, mais regarde,
il a
là,
un coup de taureau.
là, il est très serré de la mâchoire d'un coup. T'as des veines sur le front qui viennent de pop. Donc un solide 6 et en potentiel si les mollets...
Ouais, bah ouais, dos. Mais je te dis, maintenant les standards ont tellement évolué que...
Ouais, donc là 6 sur 10, potentiel 7,
ouais.
7,5, 8.
Ouais. Bah je sais pas, après faut voir. J'en sais rien, non mais c'est des notes comme ça.
Non, je sais, c'est pour donner une idée.
Ouais.
Ok, d'accord, donc... ok.
Et puis les gars qui rigolent en vidéo, ce que tu vois en vidéo du mec...
Oui.
C'est jamais la réalité.
Oui,
quand tu le vois en vrai,
les angles, la congestion, la lumière, les filtres, ouais.
Faut être 10 fois mieux en vrai que ce que tu vois en vidéo.
Surtout que t'es à peine pump là.
Ouais, t'as pas de pump.
Puis t'es blanc.
Ouais.
Yeah, 6 out of 10. I admit that the moment he told me that, it's like, it hurts. It was not comfortable at all. It felt like, yeah, ego bruising. But it was just, you know, like maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes. After that, like I told you, reflecting, thinking about what he said, he's right. He's 200% right. He has said nothing that was just like mean or free violence. Everything he said is purposeful and has a meaning and a justification. So for me, it's all good. And I said that I was going to follow his notation, his thinking, and also his advice, and that's what I did. One of the good things that I have from that is that, you know, my friend Luca, who has been training and showcasing that on YouTube a few times, he went to see him, it was in 2023, and he got rated the same as me, a 6 out of 10. And with a potential like me, 8 out of 10, with different problem in his physics. For him, it was more like the back, both the width and the thickness, and also the legs. He's tall, so, you know, the legs needs to really pop out more to look more physed out and thick. Being noted, the same as the guys that I consider as a friend and as someone that I've been following since 2012, that I've seen first on forums and then on YouTube and then I've seen evolve. It really feels good because we are considered French authorities and we are considered some of the best French athletes, and we are just 6 out of 10 with still potential. Both of us can go to 8 out of 10 and we're supposed to be the best, you know. So it's like, it's the inflation of a rating, you know. We're supposed to be the best, but we are barely above average. So what does it give us to reach for as an 8 out of 10? You know, physique wise is going to be amazing. And it's also something that, as I said, it's stimulating, and it also put everything back in perspective. You know, we often, and me the first, talk about how social media caved in and twisted the reality and the expectation of a good physique. And one of the best way to just see that out and reset it is just to see this kind of social media influencer in real life. And immediately you will see that, hey, actually they're not that big. Actually, it was just the pump, or the lighting, or the camera, or the filters, or the editing, or blah, 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 you know? So being considered above average and like 6 out of 10 as one of the top pro elite athlete, or next to the top pro elite athletes, that's actually pretty good. That's actually fantastic. And if I am a 6 out of 10 and I can go to an 8 out of 10, what does that mean for you guys? Have you been training more than a decade at me? Have you been training better and smarter than me? Have you been able to immediately understand how your body works, for biomechanics, for optimization of leverage and bias and blah, blah, blah? Or have you been just like me, learning through years and practice and trying and trials and error and maybe, unfortunately, injuries? I think so. I think that you are not going to be perfect right on the get-go, and you're going to learn along the way. And that means that the more you're going to do it, the better you're going to be at it. And this means that the progression curve is actually much bigger and can go much further away than we originally think. And that is totally awesome. So I want you to take this video not as a back pill or something that is going to make you feel bad, like, oh, there is that guy and he has a good physique and he's just a 6 out of 10. What am I, you know? No, take it as that dude has been training for more than a decade. He's natural, he's busting his ass off, and he's barely above average compared to the top pro elite natural bodybuilder of the world. So if that guy still has room for improvement, what of me? I want you to take that, guys, as this. Take it as a message of motivation, of sharing, you know, a little ego-bruising lesson, the fact that I got to see, you know, the sage with all his wisdom in the mountain, and the sage told me, you're a bitch. And I have to work way more to basically be at the highest level of realization and potential that I am capable of. And if I am capable of this, you too. So get going.